Hi, everybody. Well, this is a quandary for me. If this person actually did what they said they did, should they be banned for life from the cruise line because a court found them not guilty? Well, not guilty. They just said that the cruise line didn't have a right to kick them off the cruise ship. Not that they weren't guilty, just that they shouldn't have been kicked off. But I still think kinda they should be banned. So if I was to say to you, hey, I just had to pee in a cup. The first thing you would think of is I had to go for some kind of medical test, right? Had to go into the bathroom, pee in a cup, give it to the nurse, right? Something along those lines. Well, how about a travel partner was on a cruise ship and visited his two companions in a bar. And apparently, allegedly, urinated into a glass and then left the glass there. Now, when a waiter came by, smelt a distinct smell of urine and saw the glass, obviously not looking like water or beer, called his supervisor, and they started an investigation. Now, the alleged perpetrator, along with his companions, they stopped in a shore the next day, got off the ship, visited around, came back on the ship, no incidences, etc. Until 3 days later, when they got off the ship and left, when they came back, they were stopped by security and told they're no longer welcome on the cruise ship. Not only him, but his two companions as well, who allegedly had done nothing wrong. They were just bystanders. And that, here's your documents, here's your stuff, and you're off the ship. At which point they had to fly home at their own expense. And understandably angry about his vacation coming to an end, and his guests, who, by the way, he had paid for the booking, sued the cruise line. Now, it's not being said which cruise line this is, but the case took part in Dusseldorf. And so they went to court, and the court themselves found that while this alleged behavior is disgusting and everything, that did not justify removal from the cruise ship. Because in the wording on your cruise contract, it said that guests can be removed for certain criteria. One of them is abusive behavior or violence or discriminatory behavior. However, urinating in a glass the judge felt, didn't cover that criteria. Now, many in the comments when I was reading this story said, well, what about, I would say having to pick up somebody else's urine is abusive behavior towards the cruise crew, right? Who wants to handle somebody else's cup that they just peed in when they're just cleaning off a table? As far as I'm concerned, let's play devil's advocate. You're in a bar, you've been drinking. Oh my God, I gotta go to the washroom so bad. I'm not gonna make it to the washroom over there. I'm gonna hide myself and I'm gonna try to do it at the table so I don't urinate in my pants. Worst, stupidest scenario, right? The least you could have done is take the cup, go to the bathroom, empty it out, rinse it out, and then bring the cup back. At least do that. But apparently that wasn't done. Another thing that may have contributed to them not being, told that, is that they didn't get proper warning that they could be evicted off the cruise ship. They were just stopped getting back on the ship. And they had already gotten off after the incident at one stop. It wasn't resolved before that. Now, why did the cruise line take 3 days to do action? It might have only taken 1.5 days, and they were just waiting for the next port to stop the person from coming back on. Or they may have been gathering evidence, having to dedicate a crew member to look over footage from the cameras and the different angles in the bars, etc., trying to narrow down the timeline of when this might have happened, plus interview, the crew that were around there and had to deal with the situation. But the court found them not guilty, and the cruise line was forced to pay back not only the missed days of the cruise, they had to reimburse for the flights home as well as taxis. And that was for all three people, not just the person who was suing, which ended up over about $12,000 or so to fly home, and etc. And the difference on the crew for the cruise. Now, again, this is all alleged because they never really went into the decision on whether or not they actually urinated into the glass. They just talked about whether that justified removal from the cruise ship without prior warning, for one thing, or prior notification. Myself, I think they should have at least talked to the passenger, right? Go up to them and say, hey, we saw this. And if the person is like, I know this situation, I had to go, I was going to do it, I'm really sorry, I'm really, really sorry. End of the incident. End of the incident. It's a one-time thing, done. But because they didn't go and even talk to the passenger and question them about the incident, is probably the reason the court sided with the man suing. Now, if the man did do this, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of on the fence because it could have been a drunken, but still, you have to take personal accountability. If you got so drunk that you couldn't make it to the bathroom, you're going to urinate in your pants, then that's on you. That's on you. That's not on the cruise line, that's on you. If I was a crew member, do I want to pick up somebody else's urine in a glass and do I even want to drink out of that glass? Ever, right? I would hope they would just throw the glass in the garbage. Write it off. Ugh, no. And somebody who would say do this, could they not also possibly have been charged with indecent exposure? I mean, I'm quite sure they didn't tuck the glass into their pants while doing this. I'm quite sure something snuck out. But there was no complaint of indecent exposure in the incident report that the cruise line did, which leads me to wonder exactly what footage they were able to get. Like if you could only see the back of the person and then all of a sudden the cup appears on the table, well, that's not conducive to public exposure. We don't know, right? And to this day, the man claims he's innocent. He didn't do it. And again, the court, the cruise line itself, didn't ban him. Apparently, he's the one who instigated the lawsuit. So it is very possible he is innocent and somebody else did this. But it's hard to believe that there was a glass of urine sitting on a table and you went and sat down at the table with your friends, or you got up and left and somebody else sat down and urinated. And then, well, where did all of a sudden it's the crew member said, oh no, you don't sit down at dirty tables in a bar. You look for a clean table or you wait for the crew to clean it off. Normally what you do. So yeah, it's a quandary. Myself, I think it's kind of disgusting behavior. I don't think I would want to sail with this person. But if the person was truly regretful and the crew had gone up and talked to them, I would give them a pass. However, they didn't talk to him. They just kicked him off. And then they didn't even ban him from what I understand. And we don't even know which cruise line this is. But I'm curious for you guys. Tell me in the comments down below. If he did this on purpose, just because he was drunk or whatever the reason, not regretful at all, should he be banned for life from that cruise line? In the comments that I read from Reddit and everything, is like 98% people were saying, yes, get this person off the cruise ship.